Good morning. Kishan Kumar. Good morning. Good morning. कल वाला क्लास नहीं, didn't happen yesterday. Health was not good, so I was not able to take the class. Suprabhat. So health was not good, so I was not able to take the class yesterday. Anyways, let's start. So as we already did what? We already did quantitative tools. Let's do qualitative tools. Generally, they do not ask question on the qualitative tools in general, and whenever the question is asked on qualitative tools, whenever the question is asked on the qualitative tools, the question nature of the question is pretty simple. They are not going to ask a very difficult question because there is no scope to ask too much difficult question on the qualitative tools. So you just have to keep in your mind what tool is for what purpose. So basically there are 5 tools used by the RBI for the purpose of what? For the purpose of qualitative control. And first one is consumer credit control. Second is marginal requirements. Third is credit rationing. Fourth is moral suasion. And fifth is direct action. When we talk about consumer credit control, second, we talk about means if you will see first 3, consumer credit control, marginal requirements, and credit rationing, right? So these 3 are basically it is controlling not the interest rate. Interest rate are not supposed to be controlled. What they are going to control, because interest rates are going to be controlled under quantitative tools. Here the quantity, how much you can get or how much you can borrow, that is going to be controlled by using 3 tools. For example, when we talk about consumer credit control, so under the consumer credit control, what RBI can instruct the banks? RBI can instruct banks regarding EMIs and down payments. Right, regarding EMIs and down payments. For example, bank is willing to give 5 years EMI on car loan, right? But maybe RBI can instruct you can give for only 3 years. So if the 3 years EMI can be given on the car purchase, that means earlier bank was offering 5 years EMI, up to 5 years EMI. Now bank can offer up to 3 years EMI. In that cases, the amount of EMI on monthly basis, equated monthly installment, that is EMI, equated monthly installment, the amount will be what? Increased. And because of the increased amount, customer who want to purchase the car, he have to or she have to manage her budget. In such cases, maybe the person is not able to purchase. Fine. Whereas when RBI want to increase the liquidity and increase the demand, RBI can shift from 3 years to how much? 5 years. So in that way, RBI controls the consumer credit. Regarding the down payments, for example, you have set the down payment limit. Down payment limit means if anything is going to be purchased which is having the price of 50 lakhs, right? So price of 50 lakh, home is there, and RBI has set the limit. Any house coming in the range of 50 lakh, at least 15 lakhs have to be made as a down payment, or 20 lakhs have to be paid as a down payment. So if the down payment amount is going to be increased, then there is a problem for consumer to get that loan. Why? Because high down payment means people must have high savings in order to inculcate in the purchase of that product. So in this way, RBI will go for what? Controlling the consumer credit. Second is marginal requirement. So marginal requirement is what? The amount of loan which cannot be given by banks. What it means that? It means that suppose RBI has fixed the marginal requirement limit to 20%. So 20% marginal requirement limit is fixed in case of home loan. So if RBI has fixed this 20% margin requirement limit in this case, then what will happen? Means if the home loan value is 1 CR, in that case, bank can give loan up to 80 lakhs only. Not CR, sorry, 80 lakhs. 80 lakhs rupees loan can be given by bank because RBI has set the marginal requirement of 20%. What marginal requirements basically means? Marginal requirement basically means the amount of loan which cannot be given. So if the marginal requirements are going to be increased, so in that case, maybe bank can give the loan, but for person who is going to take the loan, it is going to be difficult for them to arrange such a high amount of down payment. Fine. So consumer credit control and marginal requirements go in hand, right? They will go hand in hand because the margins are increased, then consumer credit control is also going to be minimized. Fine. So in this way, these two tools are being used for giving a loan. Fine. Whereas this third tool, what? The credit rationing. Credit rationing. So in case of credit rationing, RBI can instruct banks to do not give loan to particular sector. For example, there is a system of future trading. You know what is future trading? मार्केट वाली सिस्टम में आपने पढ़ा है व्हाट इज फ्यूचर ट्रेडिंग. क्या होता है फ्यूचर ट्रेडिंग? What is future trading? Future trading means what? Future trading means suppose anything, or especially in case of what? In case of food products like agriculture products. So agriculture products, the farmer has sowed the seed in the field, and now after 3 months that that crop is going to be ready. So before the crop is going to be ready and it is going to be sold in the wholesale market, right, and from wholesale market to consumer market. So this is the process. So the cultivation is done by the farmer, then he is going to sold that product in the wholesale market, and from wholesale market it come to the consumer market. So generally in the future trading, what happens? This product have to be sold after 3 months in the market, right? After 3 months in the market, but I will fix the price today. I will fix the price today, and I'll say that okay, the tentative price suppose is 300 rupees per kg. So because after 3 months, if there is a bumper crops, maybe price will fall, and if there is less production, price will be high. So there is always a price vulnerability in the market, especially in the case of what? Especially in the case of agricultural products. So the farmer who is doing this process, doing this agriculture, he is having this fear in the mind ki what happened if the price is going to down. So this is why he can go for a deal with the person ki okay fine, I am ready to sell this product at the price of 300 rupees, because he is seeing that, the farmer is seeing that there is a fluctuation. There is a fluctuation in the price, and sometimes price will go to 100 and sometimes price will go to what? 400. So there is a possibility of 400 also, but there is also possibility of what? 100. So in that case, the farmer agreed with the trader ki okay, I will ready to sell at 300 rupees per kg, whatever the price is going to be. Right. So in this way, in the wholesale market, sometimes these kind of the tradings do happen. Ki you have purchased at 300 rupees per kg and finally the price went to what? Price went to 400 rupees. So if you have purchased at 300 rupees and price went to 400 rupees and you are going to sell at 400, and you can make the profit of what? 100. So for this purpose, generally future trades happen. But sometimes what happened? The people who are doing the future trade, they started hoarding. They started hoarding. Through the future trade, they purchase the product, and after purchasing the product, they start hoarding that product. So hoarding that product will create what? Artificial scarcity in supply, because you have purchased through the future trading and you started hoarding that product, and because of that hoarding there will be the artificial scarcity in the market, and that scarcity in the market may shoot up the price from 400 to how much? 600. So in this case, consumers are going to suffer. Consumers are going to suffer, and it is also going to trigger high inflationary rate in the economy. So what RBI will do in such cases? RBI will say that कि banks cannot give the loan to future trading. बैंक लोन दे ही नहीं सकता है future trading के लिए. So banks are prohibited. Means just giving an example कि banks are being prohibited by the RBI to give loan for what? Give loan for future trading. Banks are prohibited. So in such case, bank cannot give a loan to what? Particular sector. And many times RBI did this thing. RBI has stopped the future trading. And another example, you have seen recently the Go Airways. Go Airways is facing issue. Go Airways is facing an issue because of Pratt & Whitney engine they have in their aircraft. So Pratt & Whitney is not able to provide the engine, and because of the scarcity of engine, the Go Airlines is not able to do the flight operations, and because the flight operations are not happening, Go Airlines is not able to generate revenue, and because of lack of generation of revenue, they are not able to repay that loan they have taken from the banks on time. So sometimes RBI can also go to bank ki no single bank can go for loan to aviation sector. So single bank cannot go for loan to aviation sector. Even if the banks are willing, they must create what? Consortium. They must create a consortium, and through the consortium they can give the loan. Means at least 3 to 4 banks should come up and then they give the loan. Single bank should not expose his amount of what? His amount of credit completely to one sector. Okay. So suppose that aviation sector need 5,000 crore loans. So 5,000 crore loan should not be given by a single bank. It should not be given by a single bank, because that is going to be too much exposure of bank's asset to a vulnerable sector, because aviation sector is considered as a vulnerable sector. So if you are going to give huge amount of loan to the vulnerable sector single-handedly, then banks assets are going to be too much exposed, and there is a possibility of piling up the non-performing assets. So RB can instruct the bank, if you should not go for single-handedly, you can go for what? Creating a consortium, then give. Means 3-4 banks are there, then single bank is not going to exposed to 5,000 crores. A single bank is going to contribute 1,000 crore or 800 crore or 200 crore, and then they will give a loan to the aviation sector. So in this way, this credit rationing do happen, right? Credit rationing means RBI can instruct banks to do not give a loan to particular sector. Fine. Now, after credit rationing, the other instrument, two instruments, was what? Moral suasion and direct action. So when we talk about moral suasion, okay, so in India, moral suasion, especially if you are preparing for an exam or you are a student, like doing the studies, this is the common dialogue everywhere. बेटा पढ़ लो, ठीक है, वरना फ्यूचर में तुम्हारा क्या होगा? People will start predicting about your future if you are not concentrating, right? Even if you are concentrating, they will give a voluntary prediction about your future, and they try to pursue you to do this thing or do not do this thing. So when people will talk and they try to give you certain moral stories in order to change your behavior with respect to the particular thing, that is defined as moral suasion in general. But when we talk about moral suasion from RBI's point of view, so in general RBI's point of view is like RBI is going to write a letter to the bank's management and can say that ki we have persuaded you to do this thing, but you are not doing this thing despite our recommendation or advice. You are not doing this thing, and that is causing a problem for consumers. So why we should not take action against you, let us know. तो मैंने आपको कहा कि आप ये काम करो, बट आप ये काम नहीं कर रहे, जिसकी वजह से कस्टमर्स को क्या हो रहा है, प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है. तो लेट अस नो कि हम आपके खिलाफ एक्शन क्यों ना लें. Why we should not take action against you? So such kind of the language is used by the Reserve Bank of India, and banks have to explain, right? So this is known as what? This is more known as moral suasion, advice or a suggestion given by the central bank to the commercial banks to implement certain things, but these moral suasions are not enforceable. However, if it is not accepted by the bank, then RB can ask the cross question ki why you are not implementing, why we should not punish you. Fine. So in this way RB try to persuade through moral suasion, whereas if the moral suasion is not going to work, then RB will go for what? Direct action. So best example of direct action is PCA. Can anybody give me the full form of PCA? What is PCA here? PCA stand for prompt corrective action. Prompt corrective action. Yes. So prompt corrective action. So under the prompt corrective action, RBI can even control the management. So RBI can prohibit the bank for going for lending or accepting the deposit. So certain action of a bank or even NBFC, non-banking financial companies, they also come under the PCA framework. So PCA framework is also for non-banking financial companies as well as bank. So in case of non-compliance and RBI feels that the situation is getting out of control, then RBI start using prompt corrective action, and under the prompt corrective action they can prohibit bank to go for certain things, as well as RBI can go for control of management for a certain period of time. Okay, so in this way, prompt corrective actions are the part of what? Strategy of direct action. So in this way, these qualitative tools are used by RBI in order to control what? In order to control the liquidity. So quantitative tools was CRR, SLR, bank rate, right? CRR, SLR, bank rate, and then repos, SDF, MSF, OMO, and MSS. So these are the quantitative tools, and these are what? These are what? Qualitative tools. So both tools are used, both kind of the tools are used to increase the liquidity or decrease the liquidity. Right? And that results into what? Change in inflation. So to change the inflationary rate in the economy, the liquidity is going to be what? Liquidity is going to be adjusted, and to adjust the liquidity, these two tools are used. Fine. So in this way, monetary policies get executed. ठीक है? समझ में आया? Now, let's start another topic, that is economic history of India. Fine. Economic history of India. So, economic history of India is basically divided into three parts. Economic history of India is basically divided into three parts. First is before independence, then from 1947 to 1991, then from 1991 onwards. Okay, so economic history of India is basically divided into three parts. So this before independence history, we are not going to in deep details. Just you must know the characteristics of British India economy. So to give you a perspective about British India economy, I hope you heard this name, Adam Smith. No relation to Steve Smith, but Adam Smith is considered as what? Adam Smith is considered as father of economics. So it's a Western trend to give a title of father, right? So Adam Smith is considered as father of economics, and he in his book wrote that workers in Bengal region. He wrote this thing somewhere around, I do not exactly remember the year, but somewhere around 1770, he wrote this thing in his book, and he mentioned that clearly the workers in the Bengal region of India get higher pay and wages in comparison to workers in any British territory, including the most of European territories. So in most of the Europe and in most part of the UK, wages are less than the wages paid to workers in the Bengal region, and he highlighted the prosperity of that region at that point of time in terms of wages, productivity, production, and economic activity. Though he also mentioned that during the Mughal era, the economy basically became an agrarian economy. Economy. So India was basically an agrarian economy, right, based on agriculture. Based on agriculture. So that was agriculture based economy. Okay, so India was basically an agriculture based economy, and in that economy wages are higher. Means he presented a very shining and good picture of Indian economy at that point of time. Then it was an advent of British East India Company, and they started doing the systematic exploitation. That systematic exploitation of the companies who came to India, especially those European companies like Dutch East India Company, French East India Company, British East India Company, Portuguese East India Company. So Portuguese, British, Dutch, French, and finally English. And these English people went for what? These English people just and what happened? These companies started exploiting, and they started using India as a source of raw material and finished goods. Fine. So first they will take raw material at very cheap price. So first they will take the raw material at very cheap price, and then they will take this raw material to their home country, and they will create a finished good or product, and that finished good and product is being sold in India. So India is a source of raw material and market of finished goods. And in order to sell the finished goods made in Britain or Europe, they started systematically destroying the local market by putting higher taxes and difficult terms and conditions to do the business itself in the India. So in that way, the local economy, which was basically a micro and small industries, which started flourishing during, towards the end of the Mughal era, the micro and small industries started flourishing. But because of this systematic destruction policy opted by the companies in India, especially the British East India Company, then Indian economy turned to the supplier of raw material and the market of finished goods. And this is why most of the micro and small industry which was prevalent in India, over the period of time, that industries get systematically destroyed and people were forced to turn towards the agrarian, means agriculture. Why? Agriculture may be not able to give the profit, but agriculture is a activity which makes sure that at least you will be not remain hungry, right? And you can survive easily. So this is why the over the period of time, the Indian economy starts turning towards what? Agrarian economy. Even when the entire world was moving towards the industrialization and more industrial activity, but India was turning towards what? So world was growing in this manner and India was like this. So industries which are prevalent in the India, maybe not heavy industries and big industries, but micro and small industries are always there in the India, right? But because of this systematic policy of exploitation, Indian economy gradually turned towards where? Agrarian economy. Acha. In this agrarian economy, what happened? The exploitation starts increasing when East India Company, when this East India Company started exploiting, so India turned towards where? Agrarian economy. Finally, East India Company's administration was ended in 1858 and administration was taken by whom? British India government. So earlier we was under the rule of company, now we are under the rule of government. So what British government saw that Indian economy is basically what? Indian economy is turned as a basically a agrarian economy. That means for the government, in order to get the revenues, government have to focus on what? Government have to focus on agriculture. So agriculture become the most important source of revenue generation for British India government. Fine. So in order to maximize the revenue, and minimize the cost of tax collection, right? Because if you want to collect the tax on your own, then you have to deploy the many of the people like officials in the different part of a country, so that they can go and collect the tax or revenue for the government. So for that purpose, you have to employ a lot of people. In order to execute this thing. But employing a lot of people is also going to be what? Costly affair for the government. So this is why government has started giving a right to collect revenue to most influential person of that area. Like what government said, ki this land belongs to whom? This land belongs to the government, right? And government has allowed agriculture activity to the local indigenous people, and these local indigenous people, they must pay certain amount of revenue against their economic activity of agriculture, and that is going to be collected by the most influential people in, for example, zamindars. So zamindar are going to be what? The contact person for the British government. So British government is going to collect revenue from them, and zamindars are going to collect the revenue from whom? Revenue from the farmers. So and British government said that to zamindars ki I need this fixed amount of what? So British were taking a fixed amount from whom? Zamindar. So zamindar have to pay a fixed amount. That means in order to maximize their profit, zamindars are going to what? Zamindars are going to increase the tax on whom? The normal farmers. So this is why what happened, even those people who are involved in the agriculture, their economic condition getting worse and worse day by day. And this is why at the time of independence, 94% population of country was living in first in rural area and in extreme poverty. So they are living in the rural area and they are living in the extreme poverty. So when India got independence, that means at the dawn of 15th of August 1947, India born with 94% rural population and under huge poverty. Fine. So the first task for the government is what? First task for the government is to at least provide minimum basic requirement of the people rather than trying to achieve higher growth rate. So higher growth rate wasn't not a target, but the target was what? The target was to provide minimum resources, minimum required resources to each and every section of the population. So there can be two strategy for economic development. If economy is already able to get the minimum needs, fine, they are able to fulfill their minimum needs, then there is no issue. But if the minimum needs are not being fulfilled, government's first responsibility is what? To provide the minimum requirements to the people of that country. So we have two economic system. One is socialist system and other is capitalist system. In capitalist system, economic activity by private people, and they look for profits. So their production activity is always what? Profit generation oriented. Whereas in the socialist system, production is under control of government through government companies. So in the socialist system, the profit generation is not a motive for the government, because government is a welfare agency. Government is a welfare agency. So government is a welfare agency and government will not look for the profit. So government will do the production so that the requirements can be fulfilled. Fine. So now you have two policy choice. One, you can go for the socialist system, and one, you can go for capitalist system. Now I am asking you, if you are the person who is going to run the administration of this country in 1947, which kind of the system you are going to choose? Socialist system or capitalist system? The obvious choice is to go for what? Socialist system. But the problem the socialist system is have at that point of time, socialist system is not a democratic. Socialist system is a kind of a system where government do not allow the political activities. But India decided to go for what? Democratic system of the polity, where people's representative are going to be elected after every 5-year system of election. So this is why India took the middle path, but that middle path was highly tilted towards where? Socialist system. And India opted the path of what? India opted the middle path, that is mixed economy. But that mixed economy is highly influenced by socialist pattern. Highly influenced by socialist pattern, and this is why India went for this socialist based mixed economic system. Okay, so this mixed economic system was opted by India in 1947, and this mixed economic system was highly influenced by Soviet system. So under Lenin, during the Russian Revolution, Lenin has captured the power of Russia, and he started planned economic development. he started planned economic development, and under that he started 10 years planning. So because that was a dictator government, so dictator government, no election is required, so they have planned for 10 years. And in Soviet Union the planning was started in 1920s. So in 1920s they started what? They started 10 years plan. 10 years plan they have started, and they started a systematic implementation of economic policies with and target of 10 years, right? So during this decade from 1920 to 1950s, from 1920 to 1950, the Soviet economy performed very well in terms of alleviating the poverty and providing minimum required resources to the largest section of the population. Because of that, Soviet economy was able to perform very well. So this was a phase when India was doing their freedom struggle. So the political leadership in India saw that the phenomenal growth of Soviet Union in terms of alleviating the poverty and implementing that social welfare of the public. So this is why the policy makers at the dawn of independence in India, they are highly influenced by the development was happening in the Soviet Union, and they thought that if we will also implement such kind of the successful model, we are also able to alleviate the poverty and provide basic resources to the people. So this is why India was also thinking about planned economic development. Okay, so Bombay plan, Sarvodaya plan, lot of plans were proposed by the different people, and government of India also established a planning commission. I'm just giving a running commentary because the planned economic development, I have one PDF I'll share with you. Let's check. Wait. So here, this is a PDF I'll share with you, right? I'll share with you. In that PDF, you can find these are in both Hindi and English, right? So those who are non-comfortable in Hindi, they can ignore the Hindi part and just read those. Just one time reading is required, not too much reading is required. You can find all these 5-year plans here, right? 12 5-year plan, क्या क्या हुआ किस plan में, all is mentioned here. So I will share this PDF with you, right? So India decided for planned economic development. So India decided for the planned economic development, and if you will see the nature of Indian Constitution, it is highly centralized in the nature. Highly centralized in the nature means the central government is more power, having more power or most of the power in terms of execution of most of the thing, and that is also very clearly visible in terms of economic domain. So when India decided for planning, right, so it was a planning commission, a central agency, planning commission. देखो यार मुझे डेट्स याद नहीं रहती हैं, ठीक है, आई एम वेरी बैड इन द डेट्स, तो आई एम नॉट मेंशनिंग द डेट्स हियर बिकॉज गलत मेंशन करने से अच्छा है नहीं मेंशन करना, तो मैं उस पर बिलीव करता हूँ. हाँ, व्हेन आई डू डिक्टेट और आई गिव द नोट्स आई विल मेक very clear or sure कि there is no mistake in the dates and all, because I have fear कि I will forget, and this is why I generally do not mention the dates while teaching until unless I am pretty sure. Fine. So here I am not mentioning any dates. Where I am very sure I will mention, otherwise in the PDF which I have shown you, I'll send it to you so that you can go through that. ठीक है. So planning commission was formed and it was a central agency. Central agency means headed by Government of India. Right. So there was a deputy chairman, and there was a ex officio chairman. So ex officio chairman was who? PM. Prime Minister was an ex officio chairman, and there is a deputy chairman. So all day-to-day functioning of a planning commission was under the deputy chairman, whereas when the planning commission is going for a decision making at large scale, then Prime Minister will preside that meeting and he will be considered as the chairman, otherwise it's a deputy chairman. So planning commission was formed and it was decided that India will go for 5-year plans rather than 10-year planning, because India is a democratic country where the elections are going to be held after every 5 years. So this is why it is decided that India will go for what? India will go for 5-year planning. So India went for 5-year planning, and the first 5-year plan was started being drafted. While the drafting was started of 5-year plan, states in India start protesting. What you are going to do? You are going to make a plan. So the plan is going to be what? Drafted by GOI. So Government of India will draft a plan, prepare a plan, and that plan will be given to what? State, and state will pass it to what? Local government, to who will execute. It is state and local government will execute. But at the time of planning, you are not involving us. आप हमें involve कर ही नहीं रहे हो, you are not involving us. Then that plan which you are making, it is going to be highly ineffective in the nature. Why it is going to be ineffective in the nature? Because those who are going to implement these plans, they are not included in this planning. So this is why National Development Council, right, NDC, was created, and it is said that even the planning commission is going to make a plan, that plan will go to where? NDC, and that NDC is comprised of states government. So state governments are part of what? NDC, and the plan which is formulated by the planning commission, this plan must be approved by NDC. So once the NDC is going to approve this 5-year plan, only then this 5-year plan is going to be implemented. Fine. So in this way, the planning was started in India. So what happened in the initial years? Like initial years from 1950s till then 1967. So from 1950 till then 1967, most of the states in India was having the Congress government. Most of the states. And one interesting fact about the Indian politics, in the state of Kerala, right, the Communist Party dominates, and it was a first time in the history of the world when a communist formed a democratic government in any part of the world. So Kerala was first state in India where Communist Party have formed a democratic government. Otherwise, in other part of the world, Communist Party went for the revolution, whether it is China or it is Russia or it is Cuba. They always went for the revolution and forcefully control the power. But in India, at Kerala, they control the power through the democratic process. So apart from Kerala and West Bengal, most part of the India was under having a single party government, that is a Congress party. However, from 1967, in certain states, especially in the southern states, Congress party lost the power. And then the opposition political parties grabbed the power. So because of the opposition parties also grab the power, now this planning is getting what? This planning is getting having more kind of what? More kind of the deliberate discussion. Why? The opposition parties who are in the power, they always accuse the central government कि central government is doing the partiality with us. Whereas central government is accusing those states कि we are providing the fund and they are not effectively utilizing this fund. Fine. So this process of planning get more politicized, though it should not be, but it's a nature of polity or politics. So politics in India get politicized from 1967 onwards, and this trend was remain continued over the years. Finally, the vantage point, just give you the vantage point idea what happened in the planning in India. So Mr. Narendra Modi, who was then Gujarat Chief Minister, and at that point of time UPA government was there. So UPA government was about to draft 12th 5-year plan, and the duration of this 12th 5-year plan was 2012 to 2017. Fine. So to draft the plan which is going to be implemented from 2012 to 2017, the process was going on. Planning Commission was having a discussion with the state chief minister, right? So Planning Commission asked Mr. Narendra Modi, the then chief minister of Gujarat, to come to Planning Commission and we will have a discussion. So he went to Planning Commission Yojana Bhavan in Delhi 2-3 times, and the discontent between the central agency and the Gujarat chief minister was happening. And finally in 2011, when the heated discussion happened, and chief minister who went to the Yojana Bhavan, and by 2011 what was happened, because election is going to happen in 2014, so even before 3 years of the election, Mr. Narendra Modi was considered as a potential leader under whom the BJP is going to fight the election. I'm going a bit political, but this political narration is having one economic significance. That's why I'm going into that. So Mr. Narendra Modi, who was a potential candidate for the upcoming election in 2014, he was a center of attraction for the media people. So when the media got this information that Mr. Modi is coming to Delhi to have a debate and discussion on how to draft a Gujarat's 5-year plan, right? How much money should be allocated to the Gujarat and what kind of the strategy Gujarat is going to have in the 12th 5-year plan. So this was supposed to be discussed. So media got this information and they are ready with the camera to get some masala for their news channel. So Mr. Modi arrived at Yojana Bhavan and lot of media people start asking question. Mr. Modi with his signatures way, he said that कि wait मित्रों, अभी wait करिए, अभी मैं meeting करके आता हूँ, तब मैं आपसे बात करूँगा. And that meeting which was supposed to go for 1 or 2 hours, that was ended within 15 minutes, and he came out, right? He came out, and media sensed this kind of something happened, because meeting which was supposed to go for 2 or 3 hours, that was ended within 15 to 20 minutes. Media sensed that something happened, and that happened. We are going to get good masala for our news channel. So they started too much questions, but at that point of time, Mr. Modi just made one statement. He said that कि मित्रों, जब मैं अगली बार यहाँ पर आऊँगा तो आपको ये योजना भवन नहीं मिलेगा. He made this statement and he said that when I will back to this place, you will not find this Yojana Bhavan. Fine. and then he didn't visit it to Yojana Bhavan again. Though this planning officials, they visited to the Gandhinagar to meet the chief minister, but he didn't visit it after that, and he was pretty sure that you are not going to find. And when he got elected in 2014, one of the first decision he took is the what? Scrapping the entire planning commission and planning process in India. He said that whatever the 5-year plan is going on, let's finish this 5-year plan, but we are not going to have planned economic development kind of the strategy in India. It is not required, and we can have an agency which is not going to dictate us. We do not need an agency which is going to dictate us means to states to do this or do that, right? We need an agency which can advise us, right? Which can advise us, not to dictate us, because the planning commission is a central agency, and central agency is always trying to dictate the states, right? So we do not need such kind of the agency. We need an agency which is going to advise us, and that is why National Institute for Transforming India Ayog was established. So there is a difference in the nature of what? There is a difference in the nature of Niti Ayog and Planning Commission. So Planning Commission started its functioning as what? Started its functioning as an advisory commission, advising. But because it was under direct supervision of whom? Prime Minister and central government. So they themselves extended their role from planning to executing. So even during the planning era, the budget of the government of India, 60 to 70% of a budget of India is not made by the Ministry of Finance. It is already fixed by whom? Planning Commission. They said that the 5-year plan have to be executed. In order to execute the 5-year plan, government must spend in this way. So government prepare their budget for annual basis, but out of that budget, 60-70% is already planned by the Planning Commission. So the budget of the government of India, 60-70%, especially the capital expenditure, and most of the part of revenue expenditure is already planned by whom? Planning Commission. So Planning Commission became a what? A executing body. Execution must be done by the political government rather than a government agency, and especially Government of India's agency. So this is why we need another body which is known as what? Niti Ayog, for the purpose of what? For the purpose of this thing. Okay? For the purpose of policy execution. So in this way, the Indian economic history at the planning level have completely went for roller coaster ride, right? So roller coaster ride, it means the roller coaster ride from 1967 to 2012. तो वो रोलर कोस्टर राइड है जहाँ पर हर बार कंटेंट हो रहा है, डिसकंटेंट हो रहा है, लोग एक दूसरे की बुराई कर रहे हैं कि तुम हमें पैसे नहीं देते हो, वो कह रहा है हमें पैसे तो देते हैं, तुम इधर तो फालतू के खर्च करते हो, तुम ठीक से खर्च नहीं करते हो, ठीक है? तो दिस वाज हैपनिंग, फाइन. But finally Niti Ayog came and this planning process was ended. So this is the one part of the history of economic history of India. So what I discussed of this part, ये जो मैंने part अभी discuss किया, I went for all these 3 parts of economic history of India, but my focus was at policy level. At policy level, how Indian economic history went for, ठीक है, इंडिया का इकोनॉमिक हिस्ट्री कैसा रहा पॉलिसी लेवल पर, वो मैंने आपको बताया, ठीक है. नाउ वी विल डिस्कस इंडियन इकोनॉमी एट स्ट्रक्चरल फंक्शनल लेवल. तो स्ट्रक्चरल फंक्शनल लेवल ऑफ इंडियन इकोनॉमी वी आर गोइंग टू डिस्कस टुमारो एट द सेम टाइम. कल हम इसी टाइम पर इसको, मतलब इट विल टेक हार्डली 30 to 45 minutes. I will finish it up, and this PDF I will share to the Crack Grade B team, and they will upload. I don't know where it is getting uploaded. What I mean to say is मुझे exactly नहीं पता होता कि कहाँ upload होता है. तो आई विल सेंड देम एंड रिक्वेस्ट देम टू अपलोड इट टुडे इटसेल्फ, क्योंकि मैं भूल जाऊंगा, मुझे पता है। अगर मैं भूला तो मैं अभी कर ही देता हूँ, होल्ड ऑन, वरना मैं भूल जाऊंगा, मुझे पता है। जस्ट गिव मी अ सेकेंड, ठीक है। So done. Priyanka Singh is asking, good morning sir, I have asked in the interview that how I can get higher interest rates in FCNR deposit account. Please tell. See, the FCNR account, foreign currency non-resident bank account, these are the fixed deposit account. FCNR is a fixed deposit account, right? And that can be opened in 6 foreign currencies, that is dollar, 3 US, Canadian and Australian dollar, then euro, yen and pound, right? So in this 6 currency you can open this account, and interest rate is paid in same currency, but the interest rate on this FCNR is fixed by RBI, ठीक है। तो इस पे जो इंटरेस्ट रेट्स है वो बैंक फिक्स नहीं करते हैं, द इंटरेस्ट रेट इज फिक्स बाय होम, RBI, ठीक है। तो हाउ यू कैन अर्न मोर इंटरेस्ट only when the exchange rate is going to be what? Indian rupee is going to be depreciated. अगर Indian rupee depreciate हो जाएगा, only then you are able to earn more interest. So suppose that when you have deposited your $100 and at that point of time dollar was at 78 rupees. Fine. So dollar was at 78 rupees. So technically you have deposited how much? 7,800 rupees you have deposited, because $1 is equal to how much? $1 is equal to 78 rupees, and you deposited how much? $100, and bank is going to pay 10% interest. So you are going to get back $110 after period of 1 year, for example. But if the exchange rate is going to be how much? Exchange rate is going to be 80. Then the interest will be paid still on what? $110, but that $110 will be converted into the Indian rupee at what? With this means that $100 will become what? That $100 will become this amount. So in this way you can go for higher interest. But before saying this thing, ki the exchange rate, right? The exchange rate is going to be higher. उससे पहले आपको ये बताना पड़ेगा कि FCNR इंटरेस्ट रेट्स आर फिक्स्ड बाय होम। FCNR इंटरेस्ट रेट आर फिक्स्ड बाय द रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया, वही फिक्स करता है, ये आपको बताना पड़ेगा। ओके प्रियंका? Chalo then, see you tomorrow.